Hello and welcome back to Tommy Does Crypto, and in today's video I'm going to be covering the latest speculation and news surrounding Kaspa and a potential Coinbase listing very soon. Before we get into that, let's just take a quick look at the wider market. As I've touched on in other videos, the collapse of the yen carry trade, paired with America data pointing towards a slowing down of economic growth, has created much fear in the market as calls for a global recession continue to grow. Just recently, the world's most famous investor, Warren Buffett, and his company, Berkshire Hathaway, has been selling billions of dollars worth of their stock market investments. Reports released in August suggested that he sold approximately 150 million shares of Bank of America stock, worth $6 billion. And since 2023, he has sold 390 million shares of his number one holding, Apple, a sale worth around $72 billion. So it's clear that he's trying to increase his cash reserves, likely in an attempt to preempt a global recession and stock market downside later this year. To highlight fears growing in the global economy even more, one of the world's leading global investment banks, Goldman Sachs, recently fired 1,300 employees as part of their yearly review process. This, however, is not due to poor financial results within the business. Instead, it is following, in their words, a strategic resource assessment, so effectively eliminating the inefficient workers within their business. It must be noted, however, that the scale of this dismissal is likely influenced by the current global economic fears, and the likelihood is more of the workforce will be fired as the year continues. Looking at the US Treasury yield curve now, and for the last 2 years they have been inverted, meaning that short-term interest rates are higher than long-term interest rates for bonds. By the way, the last 7 times that has happened, it has resulted in a recession shortly afterwards, so this is one major contributing factor to the belief that we are heading towards an inevitable global recession. However, if we take a look at what the American Federal Open Market Committee have planned, and well, on the 17th and 18th of September, so around 2 weeks away, is a planned meeting whereby they will decide and most likely conclude that an interest rate cut is required. This, in practice, is good for a number of reasons, as it should stimulate economic growth by making borrowing cheaper and encouraging investment. On top of that, in theory, it could allow the yield curve to steepen back upwards from here and become normal, which would be a signal that recession risks are diminishing, and potentially we could avoid it altogether. The cutting of interest rates will also mean that the dollar is less favourable to foreign investors, resulting in lower demand, and therefore the dollar will continue to weaken. This is good for crypto investors such as ourselves, since risk assets like Bitcoin and Kaspa will be more attractive investments as a hedge against the dollar's value depreciation. That, paired with the fact that from a liquidity cycle standpoint, we are coming to a stage in the cycle whereby liquidity in the markets is about to be on a huge rise. This works hand in hand with Bitcoin's 4-year cycles and ultimately sets up the coming few months and 2025 to be an absolutely huge year for Bitcoin's upcoming bull run. Ultimately, while there is reason to fear a global recession right now if you're looking at data such as the yield curves or rising unemployment, as well as investors like Buffett seemingly positioning himself for market downside, there is still some decent indications that we might be able to sidestep and avoid a recession, and in the short term it will be very intriguing to see how the market reacts to the US Fed cutting rates on the 18th, so keep an eye out for that. Do remain cautious now, however, because we are living in very uncertain times, and often these federal rate cuts occur when it's already too late if we're looking back at previous recessions. Bitcoin and Kaspa are a good hedge if you're like me, who sees them as a great long-term store of value, but it's important not to invest more than you can afford right now. Just before we move on to Kaspa, please do check that you are subscribed and turn on bell notifications to be notified every single time I post. These videos take me a very long time to create, so I'd hugely appreciate your interaction with the video in any way, such as leaving a like and a comment, as it supports my channel more than you would think. Right, now on to Kaspa, and despite seeing some very boring price action recently, there's a lot of great news growing around it as we hopefully look to be breaking out of this large accumulation zone before mid-October ideally. Otherwise, my 8-month fractal from a time frame point of view will be invalidated. We still have a good 40-ish days to hit a new major peak and to validate this 8-month fractal. However, it does seem like its time frame is elongating and widening over time, which does make sense as we hit these higher market caps and require more and more liquidity to be able to trigger these moves, which suggests why this final shakeout has lasted so long. Now on to Kaspa's hash rate, which I haven't mentioned in a couple videos, and wow, we have done it. Kaspa has achieved its monumental milestone of 1 exahash per second, the equivalent of 1000 petahash per second. This really just epitomizes the huge growth in Kaspa's mining power that we have seen this year, with the likes of Marathon Digital leading the way and Bitcoin's mining pool drawing more eyes towards Kaspa. Ultimately, this hash rate is a very bullish sign, and if history repeats itself, then price should follow shortly after the hash rate and re-overtake it soon, sending the price above 30-40 cents. I've personally been a Kaspa holder for over a year now, and it's amazing to think that when I first bought into this great project, the network hash rate was only around 3 petahash per second, and since then it has done a 334x, which is just utterly staggering, and it's just amazingly exciting how adoption for Kaspa has grown recently from a mining point of view. Now, onto some properly juicy speculation. As you guys will know from my last video, Kaspa has been at the forefront of the Binance mining pool efforts and has also been added to Kraken's roadmap for coins to list, effectively guaranteeing its spot listing on both of these major tier 1 exchanges very soon. On top of that, OKX Ventures have also funded the Kaspa Ecosystem Fund, which coordinates Kasplex, the third-party team which is currently making the KRC20 a reality, therefore suggesting further interest from another major tier 1 exchange, which hopefully should be listing very soon. However, up until now, we have had no hints of a Kaspa listing from the creme de la creme of all crypto exchanges, the best of the best, Coinbase. This is where a huge amount of liquidity comes from during the crypto bull market, since it is the #1 American exchange, because this is the most regulated and the most trusted crypto exchange used by millions across the whole world. If you want your coin to pump hard, historically a Coinbase listing has been very significant, so when rumors begin about Kaspa spot listing on Coinbase, it is a very big deal. Well, Coinbase have a new director of global business development, and judging by his LinkedIn profile, he's an investor and big fan of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and yep, you guessed it, Kaspa. And he can be seen liking a lot of the recent Kaspa posts on LinkedIn too. Since he holds a very significantly high position in the company, it's without a doubt that his job will go hand in hand with the director of listings role, and he will likely have a big influence on pushing Kaspa to be listed on Coinbase, which I'm sure has already been on their radar for a very long time. Kaspa's meteoric rise to stardom over the last 2 years or so has so far placed them in the top 23 cryptocurrencies in the entire market, and a coin that has that much growing support building up around it makes it impossible to ignore. Also, paired with the fact that other tier 1s like Binance, Kraken, OKX, and potentially Crypto.com and Gemini are likely accumulating their Kaspa bags in preparation for a spot listing, Coinbase will not want to be late to the party, as they will lose out on earning from the huge volume that Kaspa will conduct once it is spot listed on these tier 1s. Therefore, they have likely already been accumulating their Kas bags, and if they weren't already, that would be a severe lapse of judgment, as instead they would have to buy it later on at a much more expensive rate. So the most probable scenario is in fact that they are getting their Kas bags ready for a spot listing at some point in hopefully the not too distant future, and they will announce the listing at a time that they feel is the most strategic time to do so. So when Kaspa's price is pumping and on that next major peak, maybe on the run up to that, who knows. If you didn't see my last video updating you guys on Kaspa's 10 BPS crescendo roadmap and the KRC20 updates as well, then I'd urge you to go watch that after this. Anyway, if you did enjoy the video, please do leave a like and a comment to tell me you've made it this far. Feel free to share my video around too to help push my content out to more viewers. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.